So let's dive into mean absolute deviation. We have a couple of definitions here. So the measure of variability or spread is a single number that is used to describe the spread of a data set. One measure of variability is called the mean absolute deviation. So the mean absolute deviation, which we shorten by saying MAD, is the mean of the distances between the data values and the mean of the data set. So let's talk about what that means, because that's a lot of words. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to find the mean or the average of the data set given. So what we need to do is we need to add up all of the values that we are given and then divide by how many values we added together. And then one thing I want you to note is that this symbol right here, the X with a bar over it, is the symbol for mean or average. So now we are going to take each of these data points and we are simply going to add them up. And one thing you'll note is that there are 10 values on this. So we're going to add all those up, and that bar is actually a fraction because we're going to divide those by 10. So our sum of our data is 790. So we're going to take 790, divide it by 10, which is 79. So our mean for this data set is 79. So that's just to find the mean. So our second step is to find the distance in which each of those numbers are away from the mean that we just calculated. So we are going to subtract the value from the mean. So what I've done is I have created a table, and so you are going to take 79 and subtract each of these numbers that we added together. So you're going to get some negative numbers, and that's okay. So 79 minus 50 is 29. 79 minus 75 is 4. And then 4 again. And then we get a negative 9 and a negative 21. So we can go through and we subtract all of these values. And it helps us look at how far away they are from the average of the data set or the mean. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the absolute value. Absolute value means it's going to become positive because we're only looking at the distance it is away, not whether it's above or below 0. So these are all going to become positive quantities. And you will see that most of these numbers are less than 10 away. And we have a couple that are pretty far away, like 16, 21, and 29. So then our last step is going to be finding the mean of those distances that we just calculated. So we are going to add up all of these quantities and then divide by 10 again, because there are still 10 numbers in our data set. So our sum, when you add them all up, is 114. So 114 divided by 10 is 11.4. So our MAD, or our mean absolute deviation, is 11.4. So again, recapping, the first thing you're going to do is find the mean of your data set. So add them up and divide by how many numbers there are. So if there are 25 numbers in the data set, you would divide by 25. If there are only 6, you would add them up and divide by 6. Then you're going to see how far away are each of those data points from the mean. So you're going to take the mean minus the data set. And it doesn't matter if you do the data set minus the mean or vice versa. You will still end up with the same values because we do the absolute value of those. And then we find the mean of that data set. So let's do 2 examples, and then you're going to do 2 on your own. So the first thing we need to do is find the mean of the data set. So I'm going to see how many data points there are in this data set, and there are 8. So I'm going to write that up here. There are 8 values or 8 numbers in our data set. So the first thing I need to do is find the sum, which is 56. And then I can do 56 divided by 8, which is 7, because there are 8 data points. So our mean is 7, and I'm going to write that on each of these, because now I'm going to take the number and subtract the mean. So I'm going to do 4 minus 7, which is -3. And then 7 minus 7 is 0, and 8 minus 7 is 1. And 2 and -1, -2, 2, and 1. But then I want the absolute value, which means we're just looking at the distance, which is positive. Then I need to find the mean again. So the sum is 12, and 12 divided by 8 is 1.5. So the mean absolute deviation is 1.5. Let's do one more example. This particular example has 9 values in it. There are 9 numbers. So when I add them all up, I get 418.5. Then I divide that by 9, and I get 46.5. So then I am going to take the data and subtract the mean, and I get the differences of this. So now I have all of my data points, and then I can change them all to their absolute value, which is positive. And then once I have those, then I need the average or the mean again. So I'm going to add them up, and in this case divide by 9 because there are 9 data points, so 42.2. And when I divide that by 9, I get 4.6888 repeating, so I can round that to 4.69 as my mean absolute deviation. So if it's a repeating, you can just go ahead and round it or put the repeating sign. Or if it's just a long number in general, you can go ahead and round it to the nearest tenth or hundredths. Either way is fine. So go through and complete these two tables. And then in the video, you will put in your mean absolute deviation. Do not put the mean absolute deviation, the final answer.